Hello, everyone. Thank you for tuning into the welcome session as part of the 2021 Move United Education Conference. My name is Julia Ray. I'm the Programs Director for Move United. I use the pronouns she and hers, and today I am wearing a white Move United polo, and I have a white conference room with the Move United logo as my Zoom background. It is my pleasure today to introduce our presenters in the session. We're so excited that to have somebody from the Bob Woodruff Foundation here. This is the 15th year of their support, so they've been a really important, long-standing partner to Move United. So thank you for joining us. And they are allowing us to bring us this virtual opportunity. We really enjoyed the success of the conference in 2020, and we're really excited to see everybody back today. So in our chat now, my colleague is posting a few reminders. The presentation is being recorded and will be accessible at a later date. To utilize the closed captioning, please click on the closed caption icon on the bottom right of the screen. Please use the Q&A feature at the bottom of your screen to submit questions rather than the chat, but do feel free to use the chat function to talk amongst yourselves. Please make sure to send your chat message to all panelists and attendees to introduce yourself to the whole group. You can access the presentation materials and the session survey through the links provided. And now I'd like to turn it over to my colleague, Krista Rappoccio. Thanks, Krista.
Thanks, Julia. Good morning, everyone. We're so excited that you're joining us today, and welcome to all the familiar names that are logging into the opening session right now. My name is Krista Rappoccio, and I use she and her pronouns. I am a white female with long blonde hair, and I am currently seated in my screen wearing a white polo shirt with the Move United logo, and behind me there is a virtual background which shows a really fancy office with floor-to-ceiling windows, some chairs, and our organization's logo hanging on the wall. I am the Senior Education Manager here at Move United, and today I am going to provide a brief overview of what to expect throughout our really exciting education conference this week. Throughout this entire week, we have 38 sessions, which will total 34.5 education hours. And throughout those 38 sessions, there are close to 80 presenters. We outdid ourselves from last year and we hit the 78 presenter mark. And we're so excited for you to learn from all of these really knowledgeable and experts in their field. Our registrants are about 180 people at this moment that are joining us. So there's a lot to take away, and there's a lot of excitement around what this week will offer. So to go a little bit into what our theme will be this year and its significance, I'm going to turn it over to Move United Executive Director, Glenn Mary.
Good morning, everyone. Good to see you. I'm Glenn Mary. I'm the Executive Director of Move United. I use the pronouns he and him. I'm a white male wearing a white polo shirt with the Move United logo, with a beautiful modern virtual office behind me and a conference table, and also with the Move United logo on the background. I wear glasses and have brown hair, and I have about an extra 15 COVID pounds that I've gained over the last 6 months. Very happy to be here with you today. I do need to provide everyone with a content warning for this session that it's going to be energizing, exciting, and engaging. So be prepared to feel excited about the rest of the week and the sessions that you'll be taking part in. You know, our theme this year really reflects the journey that our organization has taken over the last 18 months. And for many of you that have returned, and I recognize that's only about half of you, you will have remembered us as Disabled Sport USA. And this meeting last year, as we went virtual, was the very first month that we launched the Move United name, brand, the announcement that we were merging with Adaptive Sport USA. And as we've gone through the past year, that essence of what Move United really is, uniting a movement around adaptive sport, has really come to life. And as we looked at this year's sessions and what the overarching theme would be, in joining that movement, redefining the narrative that has existed between adaptive versus inclusive sports. And there's going to be some sessions as we go through the week that really challenge us around our own preconceptions on what adaptive sport is and where its place is in an inclusive environment, or does it remain separate and programming just around that? And it's really, this whole week is designed to have you shift your thinking about your place in this environment, in this ecosystem, and what our long-term goals are, that we want to achieve greater relevancy for adaptive sports and for people with disabilities to engage. And the biggest part of it is we want to shift and change American culture and perception. So what we see as, in tandem to what we've been doing the past year, we've seen a lot of effort in America around diversity, equity, and inclusion when it comes specifically to racism. But we represent our population, who we are, people with disabilities, represent a fifth of American people. And so this conversation needs to take place. It's very relevant about what inclusion, what equity looks like for our population. And while Move United is very focused around sport, we see that there's a bigger play here, and that the American people have a great affinity for sport, whether they're fans or participants, whether they learned sport through playing games at the age of 4 or 5 with their friends. There's a commonality, the common thread, a common theme to life in America, that everyone can kind of understand sport. And that's why we see this as such an important tool to change the outcomes that people have, both within our community and outside of our community, and the opinions that people have about people with disabilities. So I think our hope is that this will generate a lot of conversation that continues past this week. I'm really excited to have you here, and I'm very excited and proud to recognize our sponsors at the Bob Woodruff Foundation. Over the last 15 years, they have generated a tremendous amount of support in finding, funding, and shaping programs that impact veterans. And during that 15-year period, they've generated almost $80 million in support for veterans programs around the country. And we, as Move United, have been a longstanding partner with them. Most recently, you've heard news about the launch of the USA Wheelchair Football Network. And I'm really pleased to say that this year we'll be expanding that network by another 5 teams, including my home area of Buffalo, New York. So I'm even more thrilled that the Bills Mafia continues to expand its reach into adaptive sport. But very pleased to be able to introduce you Dr. Margaret Harrell, who comes to us from the Bob Woodruff Foundation, say a few words this morning as we kick off this week's sessions. Thank you.
Thank you, Glenn, and good morning, everyone. I'm Margaret Harrell. My friends call me Meg. I use she, her pronouns. I am a white female with shoulder-length brown hair, and I'm wearing a pink blouse this morning. I am the Chief Program Officer of the Bob Woodruff Foundation, and I'm thrilled to join you today. It was 2006 when Bob Woodruff was an ABC News journalist embedded with the US Army in Iraq, and his family received a horrifying call that he'd been terribly wounded from an IED. After Bob's amazing recovery, the Woodruffs took one of the worst things that can happen to a family and turned it into something that can help others. As Glenn said, since then, the foundation has invested almost $80 million in evidence-based programs to support the military and veteran community. In 2021, the foundation expects to invest a total of roughly $11 million to ensure that service members, veterans, and their families continue to thrive after service. Our partnership with Move United is an important and especially rewarding aspect of this work. As background, the Bob Woodruff Foundation is an empirical, outcomes-oriented funder. What does that mean? I think many funders are more emotional funders. They invest in what pulls their heartstrings, what they think is nice, and what appeals to them. We like nice programs, but we often say that nice is not enough for the Bob Woodruff Foundation. Instead, we invest in those relatively few organizations that measure outcomes to ensure they're actually helping people and to assess whether they need to improve. I'm not referring to testimonials or satisfaction measures because people often like things that actually don't help them very much. Real outcome measurement is different and difficult and important. And that's one characteristic that sets Move United apart from others. We have partnered with Move United for many years. And in recent years, we've provided Move United with our Healthy Lifestyles and Creating Communities grants, which are provided through the BWF partnership, our foundation partnership with the National Football League. These grants are specifically provided to organizations with standout programs that foster physical health and wellness, create healthy habits, increase social connectedness for veterans and service members, their families, and caregivers. We're especially excited about our current partnership with Move United, enabled by the NFL, to develop wheelchair football. It has involved the largest investment in BWF history and is going to bring the American game we love to more and more Move United chapters and participants. I know there's a wheelchair football workshop on the agenda for Thursday. I hope that those of you who are interested in starting a new wheelchair football team at your chapter attend this session, as we're eager to see this league continue to grow. So a special thanks to Glenn and the whole Move United team for everything you do to support not only the military veteran community, but the entire population that you serve. And thanks to everyone here for what you do every day to serve others and for tuning into this important conference. This is one of my favorite conferences every year, so enjoy every minute of it. Back to you, Glenn.
Thanks, Meg. It really is a pleasure to work together, and that aspect of being outcome-oriented is really critical to our vision and the mission at Move United. We've seen a lot of changes over the past year, not in what we do. We still hold our core principles, but we're pursuing a vision that by 2028, we will have grown and adapted our programming and support for our network so that anyone can participate in sport in the United States and participate at the level that they wish to engage in. And so one of the things that, when we talked about the theme of the conference and inclusion and adaptive sports, and sometimes there's a bit of a friction between those two. But I think the key aspect of this is keeping in mind that what we're trying to do is keep disability in the forefront, that we're trying to keep attention on the fact that people want to engage and that sport's a tool to move that forward. To that end, 2.5 years ago, when I joined this organization as the executive director, we set off on an ambitious 10-year vision of things that we'd like to accomplish. And we chose 2028 as kind of the culmination of that effort or that vision, because that's when the Paralympics return to the United States in Los Angeles. And not because we're a Paralympic organization, although we are affiliated with the US Olympic and Paralympic Committee, but because Paralympics is something that's so visible that the American public, whether it's people with disabilities, whether it's people without disabilities, are going to see that and it's going to form an impression. And in the 20 years that I've been involved in Olympic and Paralympic sport, I've seen firsthand the impact that hosting a Paralympic Games on your own soil has to programming, to people's perceptions, to engagement of partners beyond the normal people that we engage as an adaptive sports community. And so as we looked at this vision, a core component of it, an overarching theme, is an expansion and growth. And it's not just for the sake to be larger, it's not for the sake of being bureaucratic, it's so that we can serve more people, that we can put more sports programming out into the American public. And when we started this, we were at about 54% of the American people were within a 50-mile drive of one of our chapters. And back then we called them chapters. We had about 125 of them. I'm really pleased to announce that after 2 years of very specific focused work on this, our member network is closing in on 200 member organizations around the country. And because that network has expanded, 75% of the American people are within a 50-mile drive of one of those. And you say to yourself, Glenn, that's great, but this year nobody was driving anywhere for events or programming. A lot of places were closed, and you're right. And that was a really key learning for us during COVID, is that how do you combat the isolation that comes with disability so often? How do you continue to be fit and train and have goals when you can't be in person? We all recognize that hands-on aspect of sports training is such a critical part of adaptive sports. Well, we launched Adapt at Home about 13 months ago. And just to give you a couple of kernels of what we learned from that, we ran 2,200 events and programs in the past year through Adapt at Home. The population that participated in Adapt at Home reached 270,000 people. What we took away from that is, while it's critical and we will remain committed to the in-person hands-on aspects of sports programming, there is an element, there is a population that can be served, that we can reach, that we didn't realize, no matter how remote they are, through online programming. And so at the midpoint of the summer, you'll see Move United launch a new product targeting exactly that population, and a population still has not been able to return from the isolation from this pandemic. And it's going to be called On Demand. And we're really appreciative of some really bright, creative staff members who are leading the charge on this. You can draw a parallel to that program to kind of a Peloton style model, if you've seen that, where there'll be 3 or 4 different sports programming, fitness and training, flexibility, and it'll give individuals an opportunity to opt in to do their training program at home, in their living room or their garage, or wherever they might be, a hotel room in Rhode Island. You never know where you can do this program. But this expansion of the network, this expansion of our reach, is not just at the sake of having more locations. It's also to build a stronger, more robust influence in sport. And we've done that through building out partnerships with many national governing bodies, youth sports organizations. Later in this conference, you're going to hear about the Inclusive Playbook. And if you saw our press release about it last year, it's an opportunity to gather like-minded partners to expand our reach, our thought reach around adaptive sport. In addition, we've been building through partnerships like we have with the Bob Woodruff Foundation, we've been building out additional revenue sources so that we can continue to fund at a rate and exceeding the rate that we have in the past. So in the last 15 months, we've doubled the amount of grants that are being offered to our member network. We went from about $1 million to over $2 million last year, as we grew the network by about 50%. All of this is at a time when the American public is also thinking about inclusion and equity and diversity, especially with the events of the past year, and that happen, seems, almost every week. And this element of diversity and inclusion, largely the conversation is not revolved around people with disabilities. It's largely not at the front line of the media. And one of our efforts is to change that and to raise our profile and awareness so that we are all working in the light of day. People know where to go to get programming that would like to be part of an adaptive sports program, that we begin to shift the conversations in scholastic and youth programming around how they can be more inclusive and inviting and equitable in the programming that they offer at the local area beyond our network, our growing network, and that continues to build on a society that is more inclusive as a whole, and that we support that, and then we're putting resources behind it. So you'll see in the last year, we've created a diversity, equity, and inclusion task force. We have a leader position within the organization around people and culture to ensure that we're holding our feet to the fire on this issue and ensuring that the population that we're serving is inclusive as far as disabilities, but is also inclusive as far as race, ethnic background, gender, orientation, all of the different aspects that are part of diversity in the United States. And finally, I want to talk about part of this growth over the past year has been in the unification of community-based adaptive sports in the United States through the merger of Disabled Sport USA and Adaptive Sport USA. And I couldn't be happier and more excited to have found these two groups blend together. And indeed, many organizations were members of both of ours. But what this has allowed us to do as Move United is to unite the sports movement, so that if you are coming out of sports therapy and you want to engage in recreational sport, or you want to do fitness and training as an athlete with a disability, or you want to go to the next component and become a little bit more serious about your training and then go on to competition, you now have a full spectrum of services under one roof. So you come to Move United, you can find those competitions. This will be the first year that we'll be able to do that competition series that Adaptive Sport USA had done for 60 years. And we're looking at elevating that. We're looking at creating more opportunities for competition across more sports over the next 8 years as we fulfill our vision of what 2028 could become. So we have a lot on our plate to celebrate. We have a lot of work ahead of us. This conference, I think, is going to be a fantastic marriage of many of those discussion points that I just mentioned. Many of the things, we have 50% new people attending this conference that have never attended a conference before. We're expanding our thought leadership into new areas with national governing body partners coming on board from various sports to hear, listen, experience what we're doing. We're elevating a discussion around inclusion versus adaptive sport and how the two things are married, and yet they're married in reflecting disability and that being front and center, but there are also different paths and different nuances too that we want to discover and unravel together. Many of you are the experts on the ground. We don't pretend to be that. That's why we have panel after panel of really smart, educated, experienced people in this field. And we hope that you'll engage in these conversations and take them back to your communities and continue to incite those types of discussions at the local level. That's how we're going to grow. I am very accessible as far as communication. As you're going through the conference, shoot me an email, drop me a line, drop me a text. All of my contact information is up on our website. I look forward to hearing from you and look forward to engaging many of you over the week. I love it when we're in person because I can walk around with a coffee in my hand, and anyone who knows me knows I drink coffee until about 6 at night. But I walk around with a coffee in my hand, and I can sit down with someone, stand up with someone, and have a conversation and hear what's interesting to them, what's on their mind, what their issue is. A little bit more difficult here in this virtual setting, but I encourage you to reach out and engage myself, Julia, Krista, Kayla, who are all in this line, whether it's through the chat or in some other method. We're really looking forward to this week of sharing together and moving forward on this theme. So I'll turn it back to, I'm going to guess, probably you, Julia, because your photo's back up. I can see you nodding your head.
That's
so
right.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Glenn, and thanks, Meg and Krista, and all the team behind the scenes at Move United who are bringing us such an exciting set of conference material this week. Like Glenn said, we really want to see everybody back in person again, and we can't wait till the near future where we're going to meet all of you in person. But in the meantime, this format gives us a chance for you to meet even more exciting speakers who are really educated and really got a lot to say. And I think it'll be no surprise if I share the poll results that you answered at the top of the session, that of course we're seeking to grow adaptive and inclusive opportunities, and those both things live in harmony, like Glenn said. And we are going to be working our hardest to make sure those opportunities are grown as we look towards 2028 and beyond. So thanks for joining us today. This concludes our session. We hope this week you will follow us on social, and we're on all the major channels, and tag us, #MoveUnited, and that will be in the chat as well. And thanks again to all of our panelists and the Move United team. And we really look forward to speaking with you this week. It's going to be great fun. Thanks and goodbye.